getting ready for our next game versus UMass Lowell here. I'll speak more about that in here in a minute. I want to begin with just kind of an update on Andre. I don't want to get into specifics, but Andre continues to be evaluated by our medical staff regarding his eye injury from the other night. He took a pretty good hit, and our medical staff continues to give him attention on a day-to-day basis. He will be out for our game versus UMass Lowell. I can't confirm that. And I think the disappointing thing is you hate to see a senior, especially one that has meant so much to our program like Andre, miss any time. You hate to see a guy that has really given a lot to this program miss a game, miss anything because of injury. But he'll respond. So I feel bad for him. Obviously, it's a significant loss for our team here for him not to be able to play in games. But we'll see where it goes after Sunday. As far as UMass Lowell, they've returned a lot of guys from last year's team, and a really explosive offensive team. I'm excited about getting back out there with our guys and competing and getting back after it pretty quickly here.
With Andre at 3, basically, and Musa being out, you seem to be a little bit limited now. So
Yeah.
I know guys can play multiple positions, but how do you look to start to replace and fit some guys in there, whether it's 3-guard lineups, whether it's Zoe? How do you look to start maybe trying to find a replacement for a guy that gives you as much as Andre does?
Yeah, well, I don't think that we don't have another guy in our program that's like Andre with his experience and his defensive versatility, and Andre connects our defense as well as anybody I've coached, and I think that that value sometimes gets lost to someone just casually watching the game. He connects our defenses as well as anyone. And he competes on that end, and we all know how tough he is. So there isn't a guy that, is obviously he's our only senior, so you don't have someone with that level of experience. So, we're just gonna have to work through it together. I don't have specifics for you right now, but our guys that in the past have played kind of the guard wing spot, we'll stretch a little bit more into those positions, and we'll need some guys to be ready off the bench.
How tough of a blow is this? I mean, like you talk about him tying your defense together like no other, and being one of the better defenders you've coached. I know it's early and there's a lot of games, and he'll be back at some point presumably. Yeah. But how tough of a blow is this right off the bat to deal with an injury like this right now?
Well, I think it's significant. Yeah, it is significant, Adam, just because of his value, and also, we're not the deepest team there with now both of our guys that presumably would have logged a significant amount of minutes at the 3, being on the sidelines. So I think that we'll need to be better in other areas and be better quickly, and it'll give other guys an opportunity and what to play through some mistakes that are inevitably going to happen. But it certainly impacts our team in a significant way. But my overriding thought, as much as anything, is I'm disappointed for Andre too.
How you mentioned him being a senior? How's he just doing? Not injury-wise, but knowing he's going to miss some time.
Yeah, fine. I think he's, it's a little unclear the significant, the number of games or days. It's unclear right now what that's going to look like specifically, but obviously he knows he's going to be out for a little bit. I think it's hard. I think he's disappointed, but he'll handle it great, and he's got to keep his head up. And one of the things about him is, he's not missed much because he's such a tough kid. He doesn't miss much practice, hadn't missed many games. This might have been his only one he's missed because of injury, unless I'm forgetting one. So, it's disappointing for him, but he'll handle it the right way.
Different topic. We saw a little bit of DJ and CJ on the court late in the game. What does that give you when you put two ball handlers out there? I know you've done that in past years, but those two specifically with their skill sets, what is it that they give you, and where do you tend to look at that? Like, one, to have them on the court together, what situations might we see that more often?
Oh, I think you'll see it off and on throughout the year, like we've talked about. They're different players, and their skill sets are a little bit different, even though they're both point guards. But I think we'll continue to see that. I think, DJ's got to continue to learn the point guard spot. It's a lot when you have a freshman learning our offense and defensive system. It's a lot gets thrown at him in this first month and a half. But I think that all that stuff will slow down for him. And when he's out there with CJ, and CJ's the point guard, we'll keep a pretty simple attack when he's playing off the ball. But I think we'll continue to see that, especially now when you lose a Portman or an Andre.
What is it about UMass Lowell that I don't know, put them on the schedule? I know sometimes like when you schedule these games, it might be they have a wrinkle that you think you might be testing yourself against. But what is it about them that concerns you? What is it about them that you think they're going to help you with?
I think there wasn't one specific reason why we scheduled them. I think the dates worked for both teams as much as anything. I will say that I think their ability to score in bunches, their tempo's been top 50 last year. Their offensive numbers are really good. They have a lot of guys returning from a 15 or 16 win team. I think they do a really good job putting pressure on you, their staff, their coaching staff, and do a really good job putting pressure on you in a lot of ways. So, and I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of play. It'll be I anticipate it'll be a different game than the other night. So that'll be good for us as well.
I was going back over old rosters, and I don't think you've ever coached a team that didn't have a scholarship senior that was available to play.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
How much does that make you just add to anxiety, I guess, as a coach, when you're going into a game and you don't have a guy
Yeah.
like that?
It's what we'll need is our older guys to just kind of dig in and probably get outside of themselves a little more and lead at a higher level. I thought Caleb did a really good job of that the other night. I think we're going to need more of that, and we'll also need our young guys to kind of step up their play and their alertness and their overall contribution.
We've talked a lot about how this is your youngest team that you've ever coached, but it's also a team that has basically everybody who you've recruited, including Andre, who I know you recruited back at Butler. I know it's really early in the season, but you've had now a couple months to spend time with this team. Do you think it's beginning to take a step in the direction of the identity that you would want them to take?
I think that takes time, and going through stuff together and playing other teams before we really, I don't know that our first year we really formed our identity until we went through that tough stretch from where were we at? Was it?
PK80
from the PK80, and then coming back and getting beat by, I believe it was Clemson. I just think going through that stretch, that galvanizes you, and you really learn stuff about your team when you go through tough stretches. So, I'm kind of waiting to see how we go through some of those things together. Last night was some tough stuff. You don't score in the first, whatever it was, 9 minutes. Everybody's tight because the ball's not going through the basket. You're down 7 at halftime, you respond. So that you do get some information from moments like that for sure, sure.
And I think Caleb he played 35 minutes. I think it was the second most that I think he had played as a Buckeye. By the end of the year, how many minutes per game do you imagine that he's going to play with this group this year?
I'm not sure, but if his conditioning stays where it's at, certainly more than he did. It was one of the best overall games I've seen Caleb play. I just thought he was really impactful on both ends. Tried to take 3 charges, took 2, blocked a couple shots, 12 rebounds. When they were throwing the house at him in the first half in the post, I think he got 6 fouls called on the other team because of post-ups. Made the right pass on a lot of occasions, opened up our offense. I just thought it was one of the best overall games I've seen him play.
Did it look like what Caleb could have done last year, or were there additional aspects that you think that either the weight loss or things that he added in the offseason could have attributed to?
Little of both. I think a little of both. I think he's definitely moving a little bit better. The corner 3 he hit in front of our bench was a pretty big time play. You know, that was like 7-footer flying at you, move your feet. Luther made a good pass, but that's for a guy that size, it's a pretty big time play. I think his ability to shoot with a little bit more movement is something he's added a little bit to his game, a little bit more. He's got to keep being good with the ball and making good decisions, because we want him to play when we invert our offense a little bit. We want him to play out with the ball in his hands because it opens up so much. He did a really good job with it.
In those same lines, he's a post player, obviously, but a lot of success you guys had in the second half of that game. He was on the perimeter, basically. It was 4-on-1, and I think Kyle was on the inside. Because of his change of his body, and then, of course, his playmaking ability, how much does that help? But also, any improvement Kyle Young has maybe made as a post player, how much is that an advantage this year?
And EJ, I think, and I think we're hopefully going to get Zoe to the point to where he can do some of those things. I think that's critical. I think you mentioned it, his playmaking as a big guy. You know, I've texted back and forth with him last spring a lot about the kid from Denver. In ways that they utilize him out on the perimeter with his playmaking. And obviously Caleb's great with his back to the basket, and I think got to continue to improve on his finishing there. But as I've talked to million times before, and I'll continue to say it throughout the year, there are simply some times where when teams are going to commit to throwing the house at a post player, it's hard at times to get the ball in there, and it's as physical as it is. And he's got other strengths that he brings to the game, but it's a great luxury, and we got to continue to, encourage him to do that. And he's got to make good decisions when he's out there.
So under those lines of him getting doubled consistently because he's the best player, is he your best shooter as well?
He's up there. He right now he might. He keeps asking me to put him in shooting contests with a couple of our better perimeter players to prove a point. But I would definitely put him in our top 3.
So who would you, because of the doubling and stuff like that, is there anybody that maybe you've had conversations with over the summer or even anytime in the offseason where they have to be able to knock down shots because it kind of frees up Caleb down low?
I think all of our perimeter players have to be able to do that at times. All of them do. And I think they will. We got some decent looks the other day. Andre had a couple decent looks. Justin had a good look when DJ skipped it to him in the first half, and because they were loaded up to Caleb. So it's not always the trap. Sometimes just they're loaded up to Caleb. So we'll knock those down. But I think we need Luther, Justin, DJ, CJ, Dwayne to be able to knock those down.
Have you had a player like Caleb before? Like a bigger guy who's a playmaker like that?
Yes, but he wasn't as big as Caleb. And he did not have the size or the length of Caleb. He was really a 4-man who we moved when we played small ball and we went to the Sweet 16 at Butler. And was second on our team in assists.
EJ Liddell, he made a play there at the end of the game that put a basket in.
Yeah.
The game was touch and go at that point.
Yeah.
He kind of helped you guys get over the hump a little bit. And is he a guy that could help ride this out a little bit? Would he play a little bit on the wing in this instance as well? Could he do that?
It'll be a combination of guys, but I think right now, you know, we're still looking at that, but I think he'll be primarily in a similar role because we need his inside-outside play. I think Zoe's someone we'll look at while Dre's out, as well as obviously our other perimeters.
I know you said you didn't want to get into specifics, but do you expect him to be back for Villanova?
It's tough to tell right now. Yeah, I can honestly tell you I don't know, and I'm just going off of kind of what the doctors are saying, and you know, he would probably want me to be as optimistic as possible about that, but it's too early to tell. He just continues to be evaluated. So all I can confirm is Sunday's game.
And like in a weird way, the I don't know if you remember. Last fall he had the tooth knocked out, obviously, and like if you had to pick one person to have this weird freak injury, like would it have to be Andre, just based on the way he plays?
He's one of the toughest kids I've ever coached. I can definitely say that. He's one of the toughest kids I've ever coached. So when you have that, it helps. Now, we all know he gets banged up a lot, you know, in practice and games. He gets banged up a lot. You know, he's holding something, you know, a lot in practice because that's who he is. He throws his body around. So does his brother. But we knew this one, as soon as I went out on the floor, I knew this one was, I thought he got poked because he kept saying, my eye, my eye. I knew this one was, you know, going to probably keep him out for a little bit.
Seeing Justin play as much as he did in the first half after the time that he missed during the summer, what sort of work has he put in since he got back to being able to play, and where is he as far as being a guy you can look to for that?
Well, we're going to need him now, for sure. He's going to be asked to obviously probably increase his role when it comes to that in minutes. He's getting there. I think he still doesn't move quite as well as he moved in the spring. You know, my challenge for a guy like Justin is you have to be elite at our defensive details. And if you can't be elite at our defensive details, it's going to affect how much that I can play you. And I think offensively, he brings some things our team needs because he is a terrific shooter. But he has to be elite in our details defensively. And I think that's something that he can do even as he's recovering from his injury.
Right, are those types of details when you talk about Andre tying your defense together?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean by that, or can you expand more on how a player can tie your defense together like Dre has for you?
Well, you gotta think the game, which Andre really does. You have to be really willing and kind of buy in and embrace that role that ties in defenses. You have to be a great communicator, which is quiet as Andre is. He's a pretty good defensive communicator. You have to be, and you have to be able to see some things. C.J. Walker sees some things pretty well, pretty quickly. Andre does, Caleb does. We need more guys to be able to see some of those things earlier. You know, it's a guy that, you know, Justin, our other guys just aren't there yet, you know, whether it's the years of experience. I think that has something to do with it. But I also think, as I mentioned, you know, Dre's been coached well in high school, and he has an innate ability to kind of see things. And then moves his feet and competes. He wants to be a good defender. He told me he wanted to be one of the better defenders in the Big Ten this year. And the want to is a big part of that as well.
When did he tell you that? So like a preseason?
This in the offseason. Yeah, in the offseason.
A different topic, but did Nora wear a jersey to school on Wednesday?
No, we actually got one. I'm trying to get her to do that, but you know, like her dad, she gets in a rut with what she wears on a day-to-day basis. You know, it's for her. It's a pretty simple outfit, but we'll get her there at some point.